Dr. Kylon Middleton is one of the newest members on Charleston County Council to represent the District 6 area. I speak exclusively, Dr. Middleton, for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. Dr. Kylon Middleton, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Quintin, it's good to be back.
Oh, I appreciate it greatly. First and foremost, congratulations. You are officially the Charleston County Council member for District 6. And just recently on your Facebook page, you said this quote, "We won. Thank you for your vote and your confidence to bring, quote, strong moral leadership to Charleston County Council." And obviously, I'm looking at the percentages here. Obviously, you won 52 to Mr. Griffin's 42. 52 to 42 tells you what about District 6, Dr. Middleton?
Well, it lets me know that District 6 overwhelmingly decided that they wanted strong moral leadership. We do recognize that we had bipartisan support, so certainly it was just not a Democratic sort of sweep or swing. We did have persuadable Republicans that came along. You know, the district is extremely diverse to include, as it relates to bipartisan or partisanship. So we were able to convince individuals that our message of strong moral leadership is one that crosses party lines.
You talk about strong moral leadership. Will that strong moral leadership be as diverse as you want it to be on council?
Yes. Well, you know, all of us should have morals, right? That should not matter if you're a man or a woman, if you're black or white, if you're Democrat or Republican, if you're gay or if you're straight. We should have morals, and we should be individuals who are driven by ethics, and we should be agents of or ambassadors of justice, looking for ways to make certain that we're being fair and equitable, and making certain that we are treating people with human dignity. And so that's what I'm talking about when I say strong moral leadership or moral leadership. And definitely that should be the disposition of everyone who serves on council and people who just live. You know, if you breathe air, you should be a moral agent. You should be an individual who seeks to do those things that are good, just, and those things that are fair and equitable as it relates to every human being.
How fair and equitable will you be on county council?
Well, I'm going to be fair. I've been fair in my life, and I'm going to be fair on county council. I do recognize that we have 5 Democrats, 4 Republicans. You know, certainly I work across party lines. I've already started building coalitions and relationships with all council members as of yesterday. You know, once we found out the voting tallies, individuals have been calling, caucusing. We've been planning, and certainly today some of us are meeting. And so, yeah, you have to be fair in the sense that it's not about any of us. It's about the people of Charleston County.
I went back and looked just overnight around 4 a.m. I was reading this postal courier endorsement of you. And obviously you talk about, well, they talked about obviously the Naval Hospital and how that was basically a shot job. How fair and equitable was that process?
Well, as it relates to, you know, the contracts, or what aspect of the,
oh yeah,
So again, I'm open and transparent. The whole thing, in my opinion, was mismanaged and mishandled. That's why I ran for Charleston County Council. When we look at that amount of money, and I think you and I have talked about this before. Right. I'm very fiscally conservative. I am a Democrat, but I'm a very conservative Democrat. So I want people to really realize that and understand that money does matter, and how we utilize taxpayer money and how we are spending does matter to me. And I'm laser focused on the bottom line. And I definitely want to make certain that we're getting everything for our dollar that we, hope, to offer the community as whatever it is, parts of the development and or services that can improve their quality of life. And so that whole Naval Hospital situation, if just listening to the backstory of it, listen to counsel. We do have lawyers for a reason.
Right.
If we don't enter into agreements and or deals with individuals based on winks and nods, and we literally include an open, transparent process also to extend to other council members, making certain that it's just not a closed group making a particular decision, and then the whole council has to react based on somebody else's lack of transparency. It is a bad deal. And so across the board, we are still trying to, well, now they have pretty well mitigated it, but we have had to dig ourselves out of that. And not only that, we can look at what happened with the recycling center. There are several different kinds of projects. I'm telling you, Quintin, that when I decided to get into this race, I started studying. I can't be a part of something that I don't know anything about. And so I started studying these issues because I want to be effective. I want to be an individual who can begin to move us forward. And I want to make certain that we're making smart, informed, strategic decisions in order to make all of our processes within this county efficient and effective.
And at the top of the opinion column, it says this: District 6 voters should elect Democrat Kylon Middleton. Obviously, you've been elected already, who already is well known to many in the Charleston community because of his recent leadership in building bridges between the Charleston Police Department and the city's minority community. The pastor of Mount Zion AME Church played a leading role in Charleston's Illumination Project, which helped usher in a racial disparity audit and ongoing reforms. You said, quote, "We cannot defund the police, but we must build trust between police and citizens." What ongoing reforms would you ask council to adopt right now?
So as it relates to affordable housing, we put that up on a ballot. I thought that even as a non-county council person at the time, that county council did not need to punt that to the voters of Charleston County. They could have made a decision within council to create the mechanism whereby we have embedded affordability in our development structure in Charleston County, and also the related tax increases that go along with that, to include a structure. So when we look at reform, I don't think the voters of Charleston County repudiated the tax issue in the affordable housing two-part referenda. Right. I think because when we look at the school district, they approved that overwhelmingly. So when we look at, our ability to be transparent, there's a trust issue. And so when I talk about providing strong moral leadership, I then am hoping that we can restore the trust to the community as it relates to their interaction and relationship with Charleston County Council. There have been some things that we have done as council in the past that eroded our trust. And as you mentioned with the Charleston Police Department and the Illumination Project, the project's mission was to build trust and legitimacy among the police and the communities they serve, because there was an erosion, and we know nationally as it relates to police and particularly minority communities, that there are issues of trust. And so, yes, I am a bridge builder. I am a consensus maker, because I do feel that we do need robust partnerships with the community, so that if we decide to put something on a referendum, they can, as a referendum on a ballot, they can trust the fact that we are going to manage it. We are going to have a strategy and a plan to implement and to institutionalize if it's something that's long-term, or to even execute whatever it is we put on the ballot. When I look at the Charleston County school districts, right, a question that they put on the ballot, they had the entire process as to how, after they received those funds, what it was going to be used for, who was going to, sort of carry that out. And I think that, if we were more proactive as it relates to, if we were going to put that on, since we did put it on the ballot, in educating the community, in providing assurances, because who's going to manage all that money, and how are we going to, what is the process for awarding these contracts for, the development of these affordable houses. And so when we look at reform issues, I would then say that we would need to be a lot more strategic. We have to have longitudinal plans. We have to have short-range plans and long-range plans, but we need to make certain that there are embedded, transparent disclosures as to exactly how we plan to fulfill whatever it is we're asking them to do. And so you're going to hear that affordable housing question asked again. And so definitely, in January, that's going to be one of the first things that you'll hear me championing and talking about, because again, there is a way, the appetite of the voters, when you look at the narrow failure of both questions, there is another opportunity for us to re-examine that.
Now, the short-term plans, what are those right now in your mind?
So, well, number one, to have our election certified tomorrow, and then meaning, for me,
right.
And then being sworn in. So that's short term. And once we're sworn in, the council has to decide on a chair. And then from that point, we need to begin looking at our priority agenda for 2021 and beyond. And so those are just, the short kind of things. I do have a 100-day plan, and so it's too much, to share now, but I can provide you with a document. So look, I'm equipped and I'm ready to go. And so as a member of council, I do feel that collaboratively and in conjunction with everyone who's on council, we should move this region, this Charleston region, definitely Charleston County, forward.
And let me go back to the Post and Courier endorsement of you. They said this, quote, on the housing front, he would urge state lawmakers to allow local governments, that is, to adopt inclusionary zoning, which essentially would give them an option of requiring developers to include a certain number of affordable units in their project. Would this allow developers to pay in lieu fees that the jurisdiction can actually use to support affordable housing in other ways?
So again, short of having a housing trust, like we put the question on the ballot, so that the voters could decide, we have nothing. So in the city of Charleston, certainly I serve on the housing commission there.
Right.
We have been intentionally included affordability in the structure for housing development in Charleston. That is intentional. And so when, I offered the idea, particularly as it relates to using state lawmakers and others, short of having nothing, so you have to kind of think of ideas to then create that inclusionary. So therefore, that would be a safety net to make certain that if there's nothing that we have done to intentionally do something on this level, with the issue, as we have done with the referendum on the ballot, and now council can certainly, through its own will, do something a little bit more aggressive toward creating that affordable or attainable housing metric for everybody in our county. The other thing becomes having state lawmakers then create these inclusionary sort of zones that then, as those developments are being levied in those areas, the developers will have to give up something. And I think I've been resolute and completely open and transparent about the fact that there has to be some give in these developers. Sometimes they walk away and they are able to develop housing, projects and or commercials, sort of developments, and we get nothing. We don't get a park, we don't get a fire station, we don't get a police station, we get nothing. We don't get affordable units and or houses within that footprint. We get nothing. And so at some point we have to be a little bit more equitable to make certain that it is just not for individuals who are in one income bracket or in one sort of tier of our society who can, reach, these sort of reap the benefits of these projects, but it becomes available to everybody. So police officers should be able to live in their communities. School teachers should be able to live in their communities. Right now, it's increasingly becoming more apparent that people can't live in Charleston. Definitely in Charleston, and certainly in Charleston County. It's becoming very expensive. So if we don't have an embedded formula for the county and a housing trust that protects that, then the next step would be having lawmakers create something, that forces our hand a little bit in that area.
And in District 6, Dr. Middleton, which development is being levied right now in your mind?
So there are a lot of developments. So what are you? I'm trying to figure out.
What you just mentioned earlier about some certain developments being levied. Where exactly are they in your district?
So again, not levied. So there are lots of developments going on right now where they tore down the movie theater right there in North Charleston, that by North Charleston City Hall.
Right.
There's now a whole community back there. So there are developments everywhere. We have in the city of Charleston, even affordable housing that's coming up. But again, the city of Charleston is an anomaly because the city of Charleston created its own metric to make certain that we have affordability. But there is development everywhere on the Grand Oak side of town, meaning East Ferry Road is being developed. Glen McConnell is being developed. We can see the West Ashley revitalization is being developed. When you look at on the North Charleston side of Charleston County, we have development everywhere, occurring. That Palmetto Commerce area is being developed. When you look on the other side of the county, on the Mount Pleasant side, Laurel Island is now. So we have development everywhere. So, I'm trying to figure out, because this is a robust area for development. We just need to be resolute. We need to be intentional in making certain that when development occurs, that we are not leaving people behind. We are not creating a monster to the extent that, again, there's no win also for, individuals in our community who may not necessarily be able to afford $3,000 a month rent, or are living in houses that the price point begins at $400,000 or $500,000 upward. We need to be intentional with all of the development going on around commercial, residential, etc. We need to be intentional. Mom and pop businesses too, and or Black-owned minority businesses, Hispanic-owned. So we have to be intentional in making certain that as developments go up, that it is accessible to everyone.
Now, let me ask you an interesting question, Dr. Middleton. Would density bonuses be included for developers?
So, when you look at, again, I'll use that area that I aforementioned, where that old movie theater used to be.
Yeah, that's a very dense.
Yeah, that's a very dense. So, you look at density and you figure, well, yes, there could be an opportunity. So when we have these inclusionary zones, there could be opportunities for bonuses. So the denser the development area, track, whatever the case is, there should also be something. You should be able to get something, out of that. And then subsequently, the developer himself or the corporation itself should be able to receive, some sort of, so it's a collective give and take, and so there's a bonus for the community in the sense that, equidistant, we've created hubs for emergency services. And as a result, there's a tax break that was given. And so it's a structure that is a little bit more convoluted than to just say, yes, there should be density bonuses and or no. But when we look at there being the opportunity to at least get something and give something, I think, it does help create a win, for the developer and for the community.
And what defines the income group the units will be as far as being affordable?
Well, so we keep parsing that word affordability, and I was at a meeting in Lincolnville on last night, the Lincolnville Town Council, and they're developing in that area too. When space runs out, you go wherever else there is also land, and Lincolnville is a prime area for development, and they are developing up there. But the town was so concerned about the affordable nature of the housing, and so now they were talking about attainable housing. So those some of those units will be $100,000 in that range, mid 100,000s, so individuals can attain those properties. So when we look at affordability, attainability, workforce housing, that category that enables, if I used to be a school teacher,
right,
and so if I'm making $50,000-$60,000 a year, and then I have a child, a spouse, and or others, a car note and that sort of thing, then housing, you can't price yourself out as it relates. So it has to be attainable, affordable, and reasonable in the sense that you can still live. So, I don't know what the price point would be, but it needs to be somewhere. And I know with Grace Homes down in the city of Charleston,
right,
we said that those should be affordable, and individuals can't afford $1,100 a month, and then people were saying that should be within the $800. So it's an ongoing debate. There are subsidies that could be afforded as it relates to housing vouchers. But again, we need to make certain that we have housing options where individuals can live and thrive in their communities, and certainly not have the stress, of wondering, if they can make ends meet.
Any subsidiaries now?
Well, through the housing and urban development, there are, those kind of Section 8, type vouchers and et cetera. So, I mean, you have some of that, but you have to qualify. There are certain categories that, you have to qualify for that. But regular average individuals who just working class people who would not qualify for that, they still need, I'm hearing individuals saying that even $1,100, $1,000 a month is a little bit too much. So we're trying to figure out ways, to make certain that, housing is more attainable.
And let me go back to the Post and Corey. They said this quote: "The concept, meaning the zones that you were talking about, has pros and cons, but merits consideration as another tool in a region where a lack of affordable housing is a burden for far too many residents and impacts nearly everyone in terms of traffic congestion and quality of life." They talk about cons. Let me ask you this about, obviously, a fee in lieu of option. Will that limit the amount of affordable housing constructed in your district?
Well, again, we talked about this just a minute ago, as it relates to, developers. There has to be some level of give or take. Some folk, will not develop if you then over, kind of tax them, or you tack on all of these. So it becomes an unattractive thing. Again, this is a robust area where people do want to develop. I see projects all the time in this region. And so it definitely is an attractive place. There are cons as it relates to the inclusionary zoning, sort of, and that's what we're talking about, because when you kind of force the hand, we look at Tim Scott's opportunity zones, there are cons to that. It sounds good, but then if you don't meet the floor level qualifications, then it's not an opportunity for you. And so the same would be true as it relates to those inclusionary zones, that if we create too many stipulations and or levies and those types of embedded structures of taxation and or fees and that sort of thing, then it could detract the ability to have robust projects happen in our area, and then those costs will then be sort of passed on to individuals who have to occupy those homes. When we look at the nature of individuals who rent, so I know people feel sort of get anxiety about tax hikes, but individuals really who are renting feel the brunt of those taxes much more so than people who own homes. The people who own homes, at least they get, certain sorts of breaks as it relates to filing taxes. But those who are renting actually are paying more, because the property owners are passing those on to them. So we have to find a way to make certain that if we embed it internally, locally, then, we wouldn't need the inclusionary zoning metric. Again, I offer that as a way of making certain that we have secured, at least those areas of affordability, attainable housing, workforce housing in our various areas of Charleston County. It's not a perfect scenario, but it would be a better thing that if we had the political will to just make certain that we embed affordability like the city of Charleston did, so that every project that's developed, there is already, I mandated affordable, threshold that must be met. And with that being the case, we don't have to talk about, certainly we could talk about, what affordable looks like as it relates to the price point, but we at least have, the development literally, physically, among us. And so I would then say, if we did not have that structure, then I would push, for the legislature to just, for our delegation to just create something that something is better than nothing.
And what is that threshold looking like right now?
As it relates to
what you just mentioned.
Yeah, so the affordability threshold. So I was saying, the city of Charleston, if you're building, a densely populated, sort of community, X number of those units or houses or whatever, if it's an apartment complex, if it's a, commercial structure, even as it relates to, leasing spaces within that structure so that everybody has the opportunity, including minority businesses that may not be able to afford high rent, but still have wares and goods that they wish to sell and to set up a business or shop in certain communities. It has to be, that threshold is met in the sense that those in the footprint, those units, those particular parts of the development plan, it's already embedded. If you don't have that, then it's like supply and demand. If I could sell everything, at the highest dollar, then I am not going to force myself to build smaller, or not smaller, but to build other units that, will not make me as much money. And so it's not a matter of, making money, but it's a matter of providing, the opportunities for individuals in a diverse way to live in communities.
And let me ask you this last question. This might be a little complicated one, but what current market conditions or exclusionary zoning regulations are discouraging the development of affordable housing right now?
Well, there are all kinds of market regulations that may, be averse, to exclusionary zoning. No one wants to, be taxed or levied based on, building, in particular areas. There may be individuals, that's why people, send businesses to China, or they send them to, other countries where they can get labor cheap, or where they can, build the same thing, but, in a cheaper way and make more money. The same could be said as it relates to, business, commercial, and or residential real estate development. When we look at the opportunities for the negative, consequences associated with that, people just may decide that we're not coming to South Carolina, we're not coming to Charleston County, we're going to go somewhere else, and that's their option. But at the same token, once you develop land, you're not getting that back anymore. So, once we have, gone in that direction, you're almost at a point of no return. So we have to make certain that in the long scheme view that we are providing equitable opportunities for all of our citizens, so that, as we have now gentrification in many of our areas in this region, that individuals, cannot really access, qualities of life living in those areas, and or they may work there, but they may not be able to, recreate there. They may not be able to afford very much, to enjoy, a lifestyle in that area. So I do feel that if we are able to at least provide a win, to those who are coming to the area to develop, and don't seem like that, there's a shortage of those people, that we are also, stimulating a robust thriving, living community, because individuals don't have to go to Berkeley or Dorchester County or now Orangeburg County to live and then be, shuttled in or, drive into Charleston. So we should be able to have at least all of those features and attractions and properties and or communities right here in Charleston that they can be able to live comfortably, affordably. Those who develop here, they can leave with a sense of feeling that they have also contributed to the community, and at the same token, they've made a little money in the process too.
Quickly, how do you win with trying to slow down gentrification?
You said, how do you win?
Yeah, really with the war trying to slow down gentrification.
Yeah, gentrification is real, and I know a lot of people don't like talking about it. Certainly my church is on Glebe Street where I work, right? In the heart of the city, and definitely everything in that footprint of the church used to belong to minority people, Black people, bought up by the College of Charleston. Individuals were driven out for various reasons. We look at the nature of the Ansonboro projects. We were told that the area was affected by lead and it was uninhabitable. No one could live there, and then now, out of those ashes, they tore that community down. Those were minority communities, and then they built up, what we see down there today, the aquarium and all of these, very expensive condominiums and places, that regular people, as I would say, cannot afford. And so we have to be extremely careful that we are not developing on the backs of individuals who really can't afford, to do anything about their own situation. And so that's why, we're elected, to be advocates for them. We have to be moral agents to make certain that even when we're trying to grow and create, a robust, sort of Charleston region, that we are including everyone in that plan. And so whether I'm poor, working class, or affluent, I should still have a home in Charleston County.
Dr. Kylon Middleton, thank you so much for your time. And again, welcome back to the award-winning Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you very much, Quintin. And we are very proud of the work that you're doing.
Thank you so much, and congratulations to you.